fine. We've had to start this live early because I have such more videos to do. In fact, live stream, because I've decided that I'll go live stream for a long way until I actually have audience to hold to. That's when I let it to be videos. Yeah, so this is one of my strategies, because everybody has to design a strategy of working through their goal. And my goal is that at the end of the month, at least we should have 3,000 subscribers. And then move the hitch every now and then, move the bar. Thank you so much for coming in for me. Every now and then I open the channel, I find new subscribers, I find my videos moving up, and I'm really happy for that. Thank you for your support. And of course, once I start other things like travel and all that, I know that your support will become handy, and I'll be achieving my goal. Life is not about one thing, you have to have a diversified mind, and that's me. So every time I live, I really appreciate for whatever I'm doing. I really appreciate for your support. I really appreciate for God's choice of my mind and my decision that is firm in whatever I want to achieve. So guys, into politics, I hardly do politics on this channel because I do a lot of that on Live Saga TV. But then there are situations that I feel like I should bring them here for just because here I have more subscribers, and I also feel like there are people who want to know more about this. I've had questions, people asking about this and that. So guys, what do you feel? If you look at the temperature of Kenya and the situation, how they move about, what do you feel about Uhuru, for example? Do you think he dissolved into airs into politics, or is still there? In my view, I feel that there is his ghost, or rather his presence, felt in politics. Remember the time that everything was becoming very hot and Gachagua was almost being impeached? We waited for Uhuru to speak, and he was very quiet. At the same time, Ruto was very quiet, right? So in my view, I thought that these people must have been coordinating in one way or the other. So politically, they were collaborating to end the dynasty, or rather the power of Gachagua. And of course, it happened. Now, why do I say so? Guys, you remember, if you are on the platforms, you remember very well that Gachagua was accused of having sent the goons who went to attack. Yeah, you remember that very well. Whether it was true or not, because Gachagua later on came to complain and say that he had not done so, we were not involved, so we don't understand. But from the decision or discussions, of course, Gachagua had been accused of having sent goons to attack Uhuru's farm. And we came asking, a president that has just been in office for 10 years, how comes this happened? But then we understood clearly that when such a thing happens, it's out of very powerful people top, right? So guys, let's stand back and look at the latest after election, and even on the day of handing over the power. Yeah, I realized something about Uhuru. He was like, yeah, now it is what it is. So even though I had been decampaigning Ruto, he has got it now. What do I say? So he became a bit of withery and kind of began to wane into one way or the other. Now Ruto come up with strategies to kill the parties and began to grab some of the people who are very close to Uhuru. One of the situation, of course, if you remember, was when Sabina Chege and Kanini Kage decided to join Ruto. You know, it was very ironic. Nobody expected that at all, at all. So all of us, as we stood watching this video, I may play it, the Jubilee Party that had been controlled by the retiree president, that is Uhuru Kenyatta. All of us were surprised. We did not expect that. So let's look at this, for example, and tell me, this is what he's trying to tell me, that possibly Uhuru Kenyatta is back to politics, and maybe it's coming slowly by slowly, and by 2020, the election time, he will be somewhere. I don't know. That's something I'm throwing here, and you might drop your comment if you think otherwise. Yeah, so let's look at one of the presidential
months after seizing, former party leader ceased to hold office as a party leader of Jubilee in March 2023. Therefore, any communication from him cannot bind the party and is of no legal consequence. In light of the above, this meeting has made the following resolutions: that the notice issued by the former party leader purporting to convene an NDC on the 22nd of May 2023 is hereby suspended, and the matter is referred to the Internal Dispute Resolution Committee for their further action. That the office of the party leader of Jubilee is hereby declared vacant. 7. That pending the convening of the Special National Delegates Convention, the Honorable Sabina Chege will be the acting party leader of Jubilee Party.
Flex Jobs is the #1 job site.
So guys, you heard that, didn't you? Yeah, there's an advertisement bothering me here.
How does Flex Jobs work?
So let me skip it.
There is no way Sabina Chege and Kanini Kega.
So how would Sabina Chege and Kanini Kage possibly have done what they did? How would they even denounce the presence of Ruto, and not Ruto, but Uhuru? You know, those are the questions I kept asking myself. And I said, looking at how cool he was when Gachagua was being impeached, and of course some people came up with that he, at one point when he was in the media, he was asked questions and he was like, mimi siku hizi wanakaa na kuangalia news. You remember? He said that siku hizi wanakaa na kuwatch news. Anyway, let's get to another article that tells us about the return of Uhuru Kenyatta in politics. And what do you think about this? Because there is this annunciation made 7 months ago. I'm just taking you back to this so that we understand the narration, or rather what's happening. So let's see here. And I think it's in this meeting I was referring to, in fact.
County where former President William Ruto and his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua met for the first time since the latter's impeachment on 18th October this year. The duo met during the Episcopal ordination and installation of Bishop Peter Kimani Ndungu in Embu. The consecration ceremony was led by Archbishop, calling out to us the general election after the former president chose Azimio leader Raila Odinga over his deputy. Kithure Kindiki and former President Uhuru Kenyatta occupied the presidential dais alongside Governor Cecily Mbarire, state dignitaries and county officials. And occasionally, he and former President Uhuru could be seen engaging in momentous laughter during the ceremony. Gachagua in a thin.
Now, you remember it is during this meeting that Uhuru Kenyatta actually suggested that currently he's just watching news and seeing what happens around the world. So if you can actually follow this, then you understand that in one way or the other, the communication to the citizens was that he is partly supporting what's happening to Gachagua. And now you realize that currently Gachagua is a strong voice that is walking across the nation. Of course, today in Western, and the other week they were in Central. Previously, they had been Coast and Ukambani. Yeah, so let's listen here. This was the most humorous.
In a thinly veiled criticism of the current.
Yeah, so as he was actually critiquing the current, politics, and saying that he's just there watching news. And of course, people made a lot of memes over this, showing the light moments he's taking. And then later on, we saw a birthday cake and how they were celebrating him. And of course, people began to say Uhuru was better. I don't know why people really forget so fast. and they began saying that he's better. I don't know for what. Now, if we go deep into the political arguments, Collins Otieno, hi, how are you? Are you within Kenya? Okay, I can see about 3 more people on the platform. Maybe you can give me a like. Yeah, so I really appreciate your presence here, Collins Otieno, as the top fan. I've been doing a lot of videos today on a different platform and now here. And of course, because I have so many bookings and sometimes you just have to reach the target. So I really appreciate your presence here, Collins Otieno. And my question is, do you think Uhuru Kenyatta is coming back slowly to politics? You know, Kenyan politicians don't retire. They don't tire, they don't retire. They are only forced out of office by the constitution.
They have the backing from the king. William Samoei.
Now remember, Sabina Chege and Kanini Kage had the support, or rather the backing Uhuru Kenyatta for them to be in Jubilee Party. Yeah?
There was the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua.
And the support was so strong that they kept running because of him. And people, you know, wondered when it happened that Sabina Chege and Kanini were walking out of that party, and you know, they began to ask questions. Now, so the meeting of Uhuru Kenyatta demands, you understand the demands of retirement came about, you know?
Kenyatta was happy with him.
Yeah?
No.
And by the time Gachagua was in the office, he was always kind of blocking, if I may say, because he was talking openly against Uhuru Kenyatta. Ruto, though, had been messed by the former president in terms of what he wanted, but he never used to speak. But on the other hand, Gachagua would. So, in my feeling, you know, these politicians are never enemies for permanent. They are never. They players. But as for us, sometimes we tend to be emotional and think that they are enemies, but in reality they are not, you know.
Maybe Gachagua will then support Kalonzo.
So I'm not very sure about the trends, but I'm just seeing as if there is something Ruto is not telling us, but he must be behind a political return. If he's not going to be behind Matiang, who seems to be more independent candidate, I don't know whether he's going to join Ruto because he may not easily join Gachagua. I'm not sure about that anyway. Yeah?
So the people of the mountain will make a choice between Kalonzo and Matiang. Chances are those votes will split 50-50. I mean, if Rigathi will win, but Matiang will get substantial number of votes on the mountain. And the reason why Uhuru won the Jubilee Party because Jubilee is strong. William Ruto will allow them to win.
Now, you people remember that Jubilee is still a strong party, and even in silence or in noise, yeah, they listen a lot to the former president, and they would actually pick to hear from him because he's having ruled for 10 years is no joke. Of course, that is the politics of Kenya, you know.
And the Jubilee is Mount Kenya based.
So remember, Jubilee is from Mount Kenya, right? And as Matiang goes on with his party, Gachagua is forming a new one. Kalonzo Musyoka has his own party which has been there for long. What are the Mount Kenya people going to support, even for their MPs, for those who will vie from the ground, you know? And this is why I'm suspecting or thinking that it's possible that Ruto will have a secret deal with Uhuru Kenyatta, so that in the process, maybe he takes the win through Uhuru Kenyatta. If he's able to go talk to people, and now that people are displeased at some point with Gachagua, do you think they'll listen to him and maybe take a turn and again vote in Ruto? That's just the question we must ask ourselves, because in Kenya, nothing happened with coincidence. There's no coincidence in politics, not at all. There's no coincidence. Things are planned for very long. Who knew that Ruto would sit together with Raila Odinga? Who knew that? Did you know? So we see a lot of panic in the country, of course.
Ladies and gentlemen,
When you look at how Gachagua has been traveling in the country, from the time they started to storm in Machakos here,
kusaidia nchi yetu na kutatua shida tulizo nazo katika nchi ya Kenya. Nyinyi wananchi, nataka kuwauliza, tuseme kabisa kwa kauli moja, nyinyi mmetosheka pia na uongozi wa taifa letu kweli? Kuna furaha nao? Wameweza kazi ama wamelemewa? Going forward, hakuna Mluya atakuja gawanyika tena. Na kwa ile meza ambayo mambo yanapangwa, tunapangiwa sisi, ile meza tunaenda hapo direct. Hatupitii mahali popote ama namna gani? Jamii namba 2 katika taifa la Kenya haiwezi kuwa inafanya kazi ya umei na kazi ya watchman na kuchimba makaburi na kuchimba kuni kwa matanga. Hiyo tumesema.
oh my goodness.
Ground inasemaje? But there is one question Kenyans have been asking. Will this team be able to remove William Ruto from office?
Now, remember, as I've told you, that Gachagua, Matiang'i, Kalonzo, and of course, today they were in Bungoma, right? And at that point, we had to have Natembea there. And with such politics going on and a storm taking over, maybe Ruto might be shaken. And he might see on how to make sure that now he turns the tables. And I don't know why many people just say that Mulima is the determiner. I don't know if that is true up to now. I'm yet to understand that. So let's look at this as Natembea claims that Luyas will no longer be diggers of graves, maids, and cooks, but they will be having a table set for them.
Wacha nimsaidie ile uongo ya Kasongo. Msongalie. Msongalie. Mone baramu. Ni muongo si muongo. Watu wetu wa Bungoma. Hi cousins. Hi cousins. We made an AI content authenticity tool.
Hey, so as the politics of one term continue with Natembea trying to shake the ground from Western End, Gachagua trying to hold on the Mulima, Matiang'i, Kisii sides, we have Kalonzo, Ukambani, and all those before they choose the horse to run the race. I'm just asking, do you know where Uhuru Kenyatta is? Did he really retire and go back to Kajiado silently? Yeah? Let's just check on his recent move, 25th April 2025, we saw that Uhuru was urging African youth to fight for good governance. Now, why do you think this was the case?
Pope Francis's funeral mass tomorrow morning from 9 a.m.
Yeah, so when we see that the former president talking about governance, what is his interest, Again, 2 months ago, Kenya Kwanza MPs began to accuse President Uhuru, right? Let's play this one first before we go to the accusation. Let's listen to him here and what he urges the youth to do.
Will have to play your part in reshaping the destinies of our countries of birth, and you will help us realize that this is the moment for each and every one of you to step onto the stage. Your time has come.
So, guys, if you look here, isn't Uhuru coming back to politics? And when he urges the youth, is he talking to the Gen Zs or any other person here? Help me understand, because he was a leader, and at one point he was accused of bad governance. But now, after the riots and demonstrations in Kasongo government, he's here trying to tell the young people that they can turn the tables and create proper governance. So is he coming back to politics? Why would he have to mention about governance here in such a meeting when he's talking to the young people? Why not talk about agriculture and any other thing? Yeah?
Back here at home, the IBC selection panel concluded interviews for those seeking positions.
Yeah, and of course, remember that is the time when we had the IEBC selecting the leaders there. Now let's get to another different situation where there is accusations from Didmas Baraza and the rest of them accusing Uhuru Kenyatta. And why do you think they would even accuse him? You know? Let's listen to this.
Rather, from President Ruto's government. Let's get more from our very own Emmanuel Toe.
The recent rallying call by retired President Uhuru Kenyatta to the Kenyan youth to come out and save the country seems to have rubbed the wrong way. President Ruto's lieutenants, led by the president's aide Farouk Kibet, were assembled in Malava constituency, Kakamega County, for a funds drive, taking the opportunity to fire back at former President Uhuru Kenyatta, telling him to keep off local politics.
This is how funny and how interesting and how sweet politics is. Ruto and Uhuru and any other person. Uhuru Kenyatta was in leadership for 10 years. At some point, people really cried, saying that the prices of goods, in fact, maize flour was the first thing that people complained about. They said the economy was wallowing down, dwindling into leaving people pocketless. But I can assure you guys, even currently, not 5 years, but business is so hard, because I try to do a lot of business around the country. I try so much to do a lot of things, agriculture, business, and what have you, and I can assure you that currently things are so tough than it was. When Ruto came into office, he said that people are so hard, but he found the tables, or rather the golden cabinet empty. And therefore, it was so hard for him to work within a short time. People continued to push him, and the bill came and they rejected. The demonstration came about, and we have seen drama and drama. And up to now, when you look at the health status, you look at the aspects of education, look at the job market, look at everything else, people are complaining around. Apart from few people who benefit directly from the government, like the likes of Ichungwa, you can see the likes of Murkomen, the likes of Farouk, they praise and say the government is doing well. And recently, of course, anybody selected to be in a panel say that everything is okay, people should give time. However, every citizens and those who are outside the government are feeling the pinch, and they are complaining every day. So you see, when Uhuru Kenyatta stood to tell the youth that they should stand firm and make the country better, I think Farouk was really irritated by this statement, because Farouk believed that Uhuru Kenyatta was trying to push the Gen Z to go back to the streets and maybe pull the government out of office, something like that. And that's why I'm asking you, with such sentiments, do you feel like Uhuru Kenyatta is bringing himself slowly into the politics again? And would people listen to him after they complained that 5 years he was in government, the last 5 years, So let's to the fact that whatever he had said earlier really agitated the Kwanza Kenya MPs. And in one funeral at Malava, not funeral, but a kind of contribution, economic empowerment, they really complained about what he said. Let's look at this.
Saying it was ironical that he was fashioning himself as the defender-in-chief of the youth while he allegedly denied them opportunities.
Alimteua mzee Mudia Ori akiwa na miaka 91 kuwa chairman ya Sports Fund, akisema anapenda vijana. Ule ndio unafisi ambaye anafanya Yesu awezi akarudi saa hii mpaka ule mzee ya zamani Uhuru Kenyatta abadilishe mawazo yake. It is very ironic, it is very absurd, very uncouth and becoming. You've been in an office, sasa unarudi unaanza kukosoa hawa watu instead of enjoying retirement.
The leader is also lauding President.
Now, guys, these are the politics of Kenya, and that is how sweet it turns. But the blame games in government just make our life filthy. They make our situations poor. And every day, we just listen to their quarrels and their arguments and their defense mechanisms, and we don't have a way to defend ourselves and make our lives better because they are not fighting for our cause. They are fighting for their cause. However, some sentiments, if they're picked by the youth, what do you think would happen? Like if you pick what Uhuru said, and he's not telling us that now the old people are coming in, but he's telling the youth to take over. What do you think will happen? Now, when these people like Ditmas Baraza become defensive and now point fingers back to Uhuru, but he left the office even if he messed, and the current government, there are messes maybe which we wish that should be corrected so that we have a better life. What do you believe? So my question here for this presentation that we've just had, a lengthy discussion that we should actually hold for hours. Do you think Uhuru Kenyatta is coming back slowly to politics? Because if you look at the Kenyan politicians, and even the former Mwai Kibaki, and then the late Kenyatta, of course, the father of Uhuru Kenyatta, we realize that Kenya has had, even Moi himself, they have had leaders who are very old. So when they are claiming here that Uhuru Kenyatta should sit outside and keep quiet because he's a retiree, do you think he's ready to do so? I've seen in Kenya a situation where somebody retires and they still begin to hold people's hands and push them towards politics, whereby Raila has been on and off. In fact, he has never been off. He's always on. Whether he's in the government or the opposition, he has always been on. And regardless of people talking about the age, talking about having failed last, he keeps on. You know, like people are shameless. The leaders are shameless. They are shameless as long as they are going to get what they want. They are shameless as long as people give them platforms to speak. They have something to say. So once the current government gives a gap to allow, discussions about discussions on what they have not achieved, Uhuru Kenyatta will still speak. He will still speak and will still emerge somewhere, either through someone or through a party, or through whether it's ideologies, using social media, conventions and all that, to find a way to talk about what is currently there. And of course, politics, they say it's part of human beings. They say human beings are born political. So when human beings are born political, and some of us have not been politicians yet, but we have those who have been there. They understand the icing of the cake. They understand the bread. They understand the wrappings. And they understand the role when they are there. Will Uhuru Kenyatta accept to retire and keep quiet in Kajiado? Or will he still keep bringing up matters that will make maybe the government to call him and tell him that you can do this and that for us? Do you think that he will keep quiet, or he will actually want to be relevant so that he can be maybe assigned a task, whether an ambassador or any other, That is my question. So when they say Kenyatta is inciting the youth, they make him relevant, of course. They make him return to politics. When, for example, he attends meetings like what happened in Embu during that inauguration, when someone asks him to talk about the impeachment that happened, or any other, then we understand that politics is a very challenging era, a very challenging aspect. Something that you cannot actually tie to certain people, something that you cannot tie to an age, agenda, or something like that, So Uhuru Kenyatta, in my view, he is slowly returning to politics, whichever way. Because if you look on the ground, the interest of different parties, the target in the country, we actually notice that there is much of water to be held by the bridge. There is a lot of water to be held under the bridge. Yeah. So guys, let me end here because of course politics does not have an end. One day again we'll have another discussion. This was just a brief live stream on the aspect of Uhuru Kenyatta. And of course, once I reach home at some point, I'll be talking about Rob Risky and James Brown, the cross dressers. Thank you. Have a nice time.